2026 is not just another year on the calendar. It is an opportunity, an invitation to step into a completely new reality, not by chance, not by luck, but by consciously reprogramming the mind that shapes your entire experience of life. Your mind is not a passive observer. It is the creator of your personal reality. And when you learn how to work with it, not against it, you unlock a level of freedom, abundance, and transformation that once felt impossible. Today, I'll share 7 key principles to help you rewire your subconscious, break free from the emotional past, and create a new version of yourself for 2026. Take a breath, relax your body. Let's begin. Your mind is the origin point of everything you experience. Before any action, before any behavior, before any decision, there is a thought. And before that thought can become something you hold or speak or transform into a choice, it begins as a subtle electrical signal in your brain. That signal then ignites a chemical response in your body, generating an emotion. The emotion reinforces the thought, and the thought reinforces the emotion, creating a loop that eventually becomes your personality and ultimately your personal reality. Your life right now, your relationships, your finances, your health, your confidence, your habits is the result of countless cycles of thinking and feeling that you repeated over and over again until they became familiar. Your current reality is not a coincidence, not accidental. It is an expression of the mental and emotional patterns you have been practicing for years without even realizing it. If you trace back to the original source of any area of your life, always find a thought that was rehearsed often enough to become a belief, and a belief that was felt deeply enough to become a truth for your body. This is why your mind is far more powerful than most people ever acknowledge. Not just a processor of memories or a container for thoughts. It is an architect, a builder. A designer. It shapes your internal landscape, and your internal landscape dictates the experiences you attract, the opportunities you see, the behaviors you choose, results you allow yourself to receive. Whether you realize it or not, your mind is always creating. The question is whether it is creating from awareness or from autopilot, from possibility or from limitation, from intention or from habit. Yeah, if your mind focuses primarily on what is missing, you unconsciously create more lack. If it focuses on what is possible, you begin to see opportunities that were always present but previously invisible. Your attention is like a spotlight. Wherever you direct it, energy flows, and that energy becomes the seed of your future experience. When you think with stress, with anger, with uncertainty, with fear, your body enters survival mode. Survival mode narrows your field of awareness. It makes your mind fixate on what could go wrong. It causes you to choose the familiar over the unknown, even if the familiar causes pain. In survival, your mind is not creating a future, it is protecting the past. The moment you begin to think from a state of creativity, gratitude, inspiration, or expansion, you shift out of survival into creation. Creation widens your field of awareness. You begin to see a world that supports your growth instead of limiting it. You start to imagine possibilities that were previously blocked by fear. Your mind becomes open, receptive, flexible. It becomes a tool aligned with the future instead of a memory of the past. Your personal reality changes when your internal state changes. When you change the way you think and feel, you change the energy you broadcast. People respond differently. Circumstances shift. You notice things you once overlooked. Solutions appear where there were once problems. You begin to attract experiences that match your new internal state because the outer world is always responding to the signals you send. This is why you cannot wait for your life to change before you feel better. You cannot wait for success to feel empowered. Wait for love to feel worthy, or wait for the perfect opportunity to feel confident. The mind does not work that way. The world does not work that way. You must create the feeling first. When you feel the emotion of your future before it arrives, your begins reorganizing itself to match that emotional frequency. New connections form. Old patterns dissolve. Your brain adapts to the new identity you are rehearsing internally. Your mind is the starting point of your transformation. Everything that will unfold for you in 2026 begins with the thoughts you choose to entertain and the emotions you allow your body to experience. When you realize that your mind is not just reacting to your life, but actively creating it, you reclaim your power. It's where a new life truly begins. The greatest challenge in creating a new life is not in imagining a different future, nor is it in setting goals or visualizing outcomes. The real challenge lies in breaking free from the deeply conditioned identity you have rehearsed for years. The old self, the familiar self, has been constructed from repeated thoughts, emotional reactions, beliefs, stories, and memories. Patterns become so ingrained that they operate automatically without conscious awareness. When you wake up each morning and immediately think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, follow the same routines, and react to life in the same predictable ways, you are not creating your day, you are repeating your past. The moment you open your eyes, your brain scans your environment for what is familiar. You recognize your bedroom, your phone, your responsibilities, your problems. And with each recognition, your brain fires the same neural circuits associated with yesterday. This triggers the same emotional chemistry. If you felt worried yesterday, your body signals you to feel worried today. If you felt frustrated yesterday, the body reminds you to feel frustrated today. This chain reaction happens so quickly that most people think their emotions are happening to them, not realizing they are simply re-experiencing a memorized pattern. Your body becomes addicted to these familiar emotional states. It doesn't matter whether the emotions are positive or negative. What matters to the body is that they are predictable. The body craves what it knows because familiarity equals safety. It is why you may find yourself returning to the same habits, the same relationships, the same self-sabotaging behaviors, or the same limiting beliefs, even when your conscious mind wants something different. The body has learned to run your emotional life better than your conscious mind can. In this way, the body becomes the mind. To break the habit of being your old self, you must disrupt this automatic cycle. You must interrupt the familiar. It begins with awareness. When you catch yourself thinking a repetitive thought like, I can't do this, or nothing ever changes, you pause. In that moment of noticing, you create a gap between the old self and the new potential. Feel uncomfortable because the old self will resist. It will try to pull you back into the familiar emotional routine. But that discomfort is evidence that change is taking place. The old self thrives on unconsciousness. Self is born through awareness. When you bring conscious attention to your thoughts, you stop the automatic process of the old mind. When you observe your emotional reactions instead of acting from them, you interrupt the chemical rush that keeps your body tied to past experiences. When you choose not to follow the impulse to complain, judge, worry, or doubt, you are beginning to dismantle the neural circuitry that sustains the old version of you. Time you resist the pull of an old emotion, you reclaim a piece of your power. You loosen the grip of the conditioned self. And with each choice, you create space for a new identity to emerge. This is not about denying your emotions or pretending to feel good. Refusing to let familiar emotions dictate your future. When you refuse to act from anger, you break the habit of being angry. When you refuse to act from fear, you break the habit of being fearful. When you refuse to act from lack, you break the habit of being limited. Breaking the habit of being your old self is the process of unlearning. You are unlearning the thoughts that kept you small. You are unlearning the emotional patterns that kept you stuck. You are unlearning the behaviors that aligned with outdated versions of yourself. This unlearning creates space for the new self to form. The new self is not built from memory, it is built from intention. You become the new self by choosing different thoughts, by practicing new emotions, and by aligning your behavior with your future rather than your past. It is not an overnight transformation. It is a daily commitment to not return to what is familiar simply because it feels comfortable. You are training your mind and body to trust the unknown. The unknown is where possibility exists. The unknown is where your future awaits. When you break the habit of being the old self, you step into a new dimension of choice. You are no longer driven by the momentum of your history. You are guided by the vision of who you wish to become. Your emotions are not just feelings you experience internally. Powerful energetic signatures that broadcast information into the world around you. Every emotion carries a specific frequency, and that frequency influences the reality you attract. When you understand that emotions are not passive states, but active vibrational signals, you begin to see how profoundly they shape your life. Your emotions are constantly communicating with your environment, sending out messages that either align you with your future or tether you to your past. Most people believe they are feeling emotions because of what is happening around them. They think an event occurs first, and then emotional response follows. But in truth, your emotions are often conditioned responses drawn from memory. They arise not because of what is happening now, but because the mind is referencing what has already happened. When a familiar situation appears, the body recreates the familiar emotion. Reaction's automatic, and it feels real, but it is not new. It is a memorized pattern replaying itself. This is how emotions from the past become the frequency of the present. If you consistently feel worry, then worry becomes your dominant broadcast. You consistently feel gratitude, then gratitude becomes the magnetic frequency of your energy. Emotions determine what you notice, what you believe, how you act, and ultimately what you attract. They can either open doors or close them. Elevated emotions, such as appreciation, inspiration, joy, or love, expand your energy. They increase your awareness. They allow you to perceive opportunities and solutions that lower emotions simply cannot reveal. Elevated emotions align you with the frequency of your future. On the other hand, survival emotions, stress, anger, fear, frustration shrink your energy. They narrow your focus. They cause you to become preoccupied with what might go wrong or what isn't working. Emotions keep your attention locked in the past because they are the emotions you rehearsed during past experiences. When you live in survival, your body becomes addicted to these emotional states, and your thoughts begin to align with the emotion, creating a loop that keeps you stuck. Emotion is the language of the body. Thought is the language of the mind. When both are aligned, they create a strong electromagnetic signal. If your thoughts are saying you want to be successful, but your emotions are filled with fear and doubt, your signal is incoherent. The body does not believe the mind. But when you think a thought that is supported by an elevated emotion, your mind and body communicate in harmony. The signal becomes clear. This coherence makes you more receptive, more intuitive, and more aligned with the life you want to create. To change your life in 2026, learn to generate emotions that match the experiences you want to have, not the experiences you remember from your past. You cannot wait for your reality to give you the feeling you want. You must produce the feeling first. If you wait for success to feel abundant, you will remain in lack. If you wait for love to feel worthy, you will remain in doubt. If you wait for healing to feel whole, you will remain in separation. Frequency of your desired future must be initiated by you before the event occurs. The body often resists this because it is accustomed to living by familiar emotional patterns. But when you intentionally elevate your emotional state, you teach the body a new way of being. You shift from living as a record of the past to living as a vision of the future. You become a creator rather than a reactor. Emotional elevation is not an escape from reality, a recalibration of your energy to match the version of yourself you are choosing to become. Every day becomes an opportunity to ask yourself a simple but transformative question. What frequency am I offering the world right now? Question interrupts the old emotional habit and brings awareness to your state of being. From that awareness, you can choose to shift. You can choose gratitude instead of frustration. You can choose calm instead of urgency. You can choose inspiration instead of discouragement. With each choice, you strengthen the emotional signature of your future. Emotions are your contribution to the field of possibility around you. They are also your invitation to receive experiences that match the signal you are sending. By mastering your emotional state, you become the author of your energy, and your energy becomes the architect of your life. There is a version of you that already exists, a version that is living the life you dream of, experiencing the abundance you desire, embodying the confidence you seek, and thriving in ways you have only imagined. This is not metaphorical or symbolic. Actual potential that exists in the field of infinite possibility. Every outcome, every path, every transformation is already present in what can be called the realm of potentiality. Your job is not to force the future into existence, but to align yourself with the version of you that already occupies that future. When you understand that the future is not something that happens to you, but something that you tune into, you begin to realize how powerful your awareness truly is. Your attention is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. When you consistently direct your attention toward a vision of your future, you activate the neural pathways, emotional patterns, energetic frequencies that harmonize with that vision. In this way, you begin to merge with a possible future that resonates with your highest potential. Most people are trapped by their memories. Wake up each day and immediately re-enter a neurological and emotional state anchored in the past. They think from what they know. They feel from what they remember. They act from what is familiar. And because of that, future becomes nothing more than a recycled version of yesterday. They are not tuning into possibility. They're tuning into repetition. The unknown, the space where transformation can happen, remains untouched because the mind prefers what it can predict. But possibility lives in the unknown. Your desired future is not found in the logic of your history. It is found in the openness of your imagination. When you allow yourself to feel into a future that is greater than your past, you begin indicating with potential in a new way. You are no longer referencing memories. You are generating new internal experiences that begin to shape your external world. Imagine the version of yourself that has already manifested the life you want in 2026. That version of you is not worried. That version is not stuck in limitation. That version is not defined by past failures or conditioned by old emotional patterns. That version exists beyond your current circumstances, beyond your current beliefs, beyond your current perceptions. To connect with that version, you must step into a state of being where your inner world becomes more real than your outer environment. This means choosing thoughts that reflect your future rather than your past. Practicing the emotions that your future self would feel: gratitude, abundance, confidence, love, long before the physical evidence appears. When you do this, you are sending a signal into the field that says, I'm ready to match this future now. You are aligning your energy with the reality you want to experience. This alignment is not daydreaming. It is not wishful thinking. It is a coherent state in which your thoughts, emotions, intentions harmonize with a new potential. When you reach that level of coherence, you create an energetic resonance that draws the future toward you. You become a magnet for experiences that match your internal frequency. Future starts to reorganize itself around the energy you are broadcasting. This is why people often find that when they shift internally, their external life changes almost effortlessly. They meet the right person at the right time. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere. Solutions emerge without force. These synchronicities are not coincidences. They are indicators that you are aligned with a new timeline of possibility. They are signs that your inner work is beginning to influence the outer world. The future you want is not waiting for you to become worthy of it. It is not waiting for the perfect moment. It is not waiting for you to fix everything in your life before it arrives. It exists right now as a potential. Your responsibility is to align with it. When you hold the vision of your future consistently, when you think from it, feel from it, act from it, you begin to collapse that possibility into physical reality. You become the channel through which that potential becomes actualized. The future is not created by willpower, it is created by alignment. It emerges from the harmony between your inner state and the potential that already exists in the unseen. You do not chase the future. You tune into it. You match it. You become it internally so that it can manifest externally. Repetition is the language of the subconscious. It is through continual rehearsal that the brain learns, adapts, evolves into a new state of being. Every thought you consistently think becomes easier to think. Every emotion you repeatedly feel becomes easier to feel. Every behavior you act out daily becomes more automatic. Brain is always being shaped by what you repeat, and the body is always being conditioned by what you emotionally practice. This is why change requires not just insight, not just inspiration, but repetition. Lasting transformation is built through the steady, Deliberate training of your mind and body toward a desired future. The mind you currently have, your beliefs, your perceptions, your assumptions, your emotional tendencies, is a product of repeated patterns. These patterns have been rehearsed for years, even decades. Many of them were not consciously chosen. They were learned through environment, family, society, and personal experiences. Over time, they became so familiar that they eventually felt like you. But they are not you. They are patterns you practice long enough to accept as truth. This understanding is liberating because it means that a new mind can be created through the same mechanism, repetition. To create a new life in 2026, you must repeatedly rehearse the thoughts that align with your desired future until they become more familiar than the thoughts of your past. You must generate the emotions that your future self would naturally embody until they feel more normal than the emotions tied to old memories. Each time you think a thought that is unfamiliar but aligned with your vision, you are firing new neural circuits. Each time you generate an elevated emotion, you are chemically signaling the body to experience a new identity. Through repetition, you teach your biology to become a reflection of your future rather than your history. The first phase of repetition feels unfamiliar, sometimes even challenging. When you try to think new thoughts, thoughts of abundance, confidence, possibility, the old mind will resist because it has been conditioned to think in predictable patterns. Similarly, when you try to feel grateful or inspired without a reason, the body may attempt to pull you back into the emotional states it knows best. This resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are stepping beyond the familiar. Time you consciously choose the new thought or the new emotion, you weaken the old patterns and strengthen the new ones. Over time, with consistent repetition, the unfamiliar becomes familiar. The new thought becomes the natural thought. Elevated emotion becomes the baseline emotion. This is when the brain begins to reorganize itself. Neural pathways associated with limitation, fear, or pessimism start to prune away through lack of use, while new pathways associated with vision, purpose, possibility strengthen through repeated activation. The mind evolves, the emotional body evolves, and eventually the identity evolves. Repetition is not merely mental practice, it is energetic alignment. When you repeatedly focus on your future, you are sending a consistent signal into the field of possibility. When you consistently embody the emotions of your future, you are broadcasting a coherent energetic frequency that aligns you with that future. The universe responds to consistency, responds to clarity, it responds to coherence. When your inner world sends a stable and repeated signal, the outer world aligns with it. Rehearsal also changes your behavior. When you repeatedly imagine yourself acting as the future version of you, showing up with confidence, speaking with clarity, making decisions from abundance, you prime your brain to behave that way in reality. The brain does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. It encodes both as memory. Through repeated mental rehearsal, your future self becomes a practice behavior, not an abstract idea. The more you repeat a pattern aligned with your desired life in 2026, the more natural it becomes. This is how athletes train, how musicians master their craft, develop confidence, and how anyone, including you, can build a new self. Repetition is the tool through which the old identity dissolves and the new identity emerges. It is through consistent, intentional practice that you sculpt a mind capable of creating a new reality. Meditation is more than a practice, it is a doorway into the quiet landscape of your inner world, where old patterns can be dismantled, new connections can be formed, greatest version of yourself can begin to emerge. When you meditate, you step out of the habitual thinking that defines your daily life and into a field of possibility where you are no longer bound by your past. In this space, you are not your circumstances, you are not your routines, and you are not your old identity. You enter a state where the mind becomes still enough to listen, the body becomes calm enough to release, and the heart becomes open enough to receive. Most people live their lives in a constant state of mental noise. Thoughts run unexamined. Emotions arise unconsciously. Reactions unfold without awareness. The mind becomes a perpetual loop of past experiences projected into the present moment. Mental chatter not only distracts you from your inner truth, but keeps you anchored to old neurological patterns. Meditation interrupts this cycle, the momentum of the mind, and quiets the chemistry of the body so you can reconnect with the deeper intelligence within you. When you sit in stillness and close your eyes, you're signaling to your brain that you are no longer focused on the external world. Withdraw your attention from the people, tasks, and responsibilities that normally shape your identity. As your attention moves inward, the brain shifts into states where creativity, healing, insight, and transformation become possible. In this inner space, you can observe your thoughts without becoming them. You can feel your emotions without being controlled by them. You create distance between who you are and who you have been habitually acting as. Meditation creates the ideal environment for reprogramming because it brings the brain into coherence. When the brain is coherent, different regions communicate harmoniously. The thinking mind and emotional body begin aligning rather than operating in opposition. Coherence is essential for change because a scattered mind cannot create a focused future. A chaotic inner world cannot project a coherent signal into the field of possibility. Through meditation, you train your mind to focus, your body to relax, your heart to open, allowing your entire being to function as a unified, powerful instrument for transformation. In meditation, you can rehearse your future without distraction. You can imagine the version of yourself who already lives the life you want in 2026. You can feel the emotions that version of you feels: gratitude, fulfillment, confidence, and allow those emotions to rewrite your internal chemistry. When you generate these elevated emotions in meditation, you are instructing your body to experience the future in the present moment. The body begins to believe that the future is happening now, and this belief initiates a biological shift. New neural pathways form. Old emotional addictions weaken. Your energy reorganizes around a new identity. Meditation also teaches the body to let go. Most people carry stress, tension, and emotional residue from the past in their physical form. The shoulders tighten from years of carrying burdens. The chest contracts from long-held fear. The stomach knots from unprocessed worry. In meditations, the breath slows and the mind softens. The body begins to unwind. The tightness releases. The heartbeat steadies. The nervous system calms. In this relaxed state, the body becomes more receptive to new emotional instructions. It becomes easier to cultivate feelings of peace, love, and abundance when the body is no longer stuck in survival mode. Through this practice, you begin training your body to trust the unknown. Meditation gently guides you into a space beyond logic, beyond control, and beyond predictability. This is the space where intuition awakens and creativity flourishes. This is where new possibilities begin to appear in your awareness. The more you surrender to this space, the more you dissolve the limitations of the old self and open the channels for the new self to emerge. Meditation also strengthens your connection to the present moment. The present moment is where true creation occurs because it is free from the constraints of memory and anticipation. When you are fully present, you are no longer reacting from your past, and you are no longer worrying about your future. You exist in a state of pure being. In this state, you are powerful, available, and receptive. You can sense insights you would normally overlook. You can feel your intuitive guidance more clearly. You can connect with the energy of the future you are creating. The more you practice meditation, the more natural this state becomes. What begins as a few moments of stillness each day eventually becomes a new way of living. You become less reactive, more intentional, more aware, and more aligned with the vision of your future. Your inner world becomes organized, coherent, and calm. And when your inner world shifts, your outer world begins to shift with it. Becoming the future self is the ultimate expression of transformation. The moment when your inner world and your desired reality come into alignment. It is the recognition that you do not create your future by waiting for external conditions to change, but by changing the way you show up in the present moment. When you become the future self now, you collapse the distance between who you are and who you aspire to be. You embody the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of the version of you that already lives the life you want in 2026. This is not pretending. This is creation. You are rehearsing a new identity into existence through your daily choices. Most people approach life as if the external world has to shift first. They say they will feel confident after they succeed, feel abundant after they receive money, feel loved after they are validated, or feel whole after everything is fixed. But this is the psychology of waiting, and waiting reinforces the identity of lack. If you wait for your external world to change before you allow yourself to feel differently, you are assigning your power to conditions outside of you. You are letting circumstances dictate your identity. The future self cannot emerge in a state where the present self is defined by limitation. To become the future self, begin by imagining that version of you with clarity. Imagine how they think, how they speak, how they make decisions, how they respond to challenges, how they walk into a room, how they treat themselves and others. The clearer this internal image becomes, familiar the future feels. Once the future feels familiar, you can begin embodying it. This embodiment is not just mental, it is emotional. Your future self carries different frequency than your current self. They feel differently about themselves, about life, and about possibility. To become them, you must begin feeling those emotions today. You cultivate those emotions intentionally. You generate the feeling of abundance before the evidence shows up. You practice the emotion of confidence before the success occurs. You feel the vibration of love before the relationship appears. You allow your body to experience the chemistry of your future so deeply that it begins to accept that version of you as your new identity. When the body believes the future is happening now, it shifts biologically. And once the body changes, your behavior must follow. Becoming the future self means making choices that align with the version of you you are becoming, not the version you have been. It means doing the things that future you would do, even when they feel unfamiliar. Saying no to the habits that don't match your vision, and saying yes to the actions that move you forward. It means speaking differently, thinking differently, and acting differently. Each decision is an affirmation of your new identity. Each moment of alignment strengthens the neural and emotional architecture of the future self. This process also requires letting go of the emotional baggage that contradicts your future identity. You cannot step into a future defined by abundance while carrying the emotions of scarcity. You cannot embody confidence while clinging to self-doubt. You cannot align with love while rehearsing old patterns of fear. Becoming the future self means releasing the emotional signatures of the past so your energy is not divided between who you were and who you are becoming. When you begin to live as your future self, you shift your energetic state. This shift is noticeable. You think differently, and therefore your attention moves to new possibilities. You feel differently, and therefore you attract experiences that match your elevated emotional state. You act differently, and therefore you create new outcomes. You start to see synchronicities, events that seem too aligned to be random. These are not coincidences. They're reflections of the energetic coherence you are generating by living in alignment with your future identity. There is a profound empowerment that arises when you realize that you do not have to wait for 2026 to become the person you want to be. You can begin right now, in this moment, with this breath. You decide who you are becoming, and your actions, your thoughts, emotions follow that decision. The more consistently you live as that version of yourself, the faster your external world reorganizes to match the internal transformation. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by your potential. Every moment is a future choice to repeat the familiar or to create the future. Choose creation. Choose the highest vision of yourself. 2026 is waiting. Your new life begins in the mind long before it unfolds in the world.